Let me just say, if you thought episode 1 of The Legendary Hero is Dead, with all of its thighs goodness, was full of culture, you haven't seen nothing yet. Episode 2 takes it up a notch. Just the whole idea that Touka can be himself and just look at a devil and basically come to the conclusion that it is a man of culture, that ultimately the whole idea of someone naked in stockings, of course, there's nothing better than that. I think this isn't our enemy. This is actually my new BFF. We should hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Just, this man is such a perverted idiot, and he is going to be comedy gold this anime season. This was a roller coaster of an episode. I mean, there was multiple attempts at killing people, both on Henri's side as well as Touka. We had a lot of fan service, and honestly, I think I've seen at least 2 or 3 figures that are waiting to be sold for Yunya, because the amount of wardrobe changes they gave her, from birthday suit to that can't even be considered a swimsuit to what even is that, but I'm sure that would also sell as a figure. The show knows what it's doing. It definitely is funny and perverted, but they're getting more into the idea of characterizations, whether it's our little necromancer, and probably over the course of the story, her feeling more alive and human than something pulled straight from the depths of hell. And the fact that Touka, despite being as perverted and crazy as he is, the boy refuses to back down and clearly believes that his life is worth living, which honestly puts him a step above a lot of these characters put in these perverted situations. Now, I do have a full live reaction to episode 2 available on my Patreon, so if you do want to see my full uncut thoughts as I watch this episode, you can head on over there and consider supporting. I'm liking this one. I think from episode 1 and the can't keep his sword hard joke, I noticed in the opening, the actual final moment of the opening is his sword going limp and covering the screen. So very much it's clear that that joke isn't going away, and as I said in my first impressions, I hope it doesn't. They continue to have fun with it in this episode and actually make it seem a little more useful. I mean, the entire way they deal with Kyle is more or less making a booby trap so he falls into the ocean. Obviously, it's not going to kill him, and we'll see him again someday, but it was enough to be useful. And I love the idea that because when he touches the sword, it goes limp, but if he's not touching the sword's hard and useful. You don't want to go bragging about that your sword is limp if you touch it, but ultimately we saw how it was useful as he more or less uses it as like a whip to go around the devil, and then he kind of like holds it with a rope, so it basically is like a prison. Pretty genius, but kind of feel bad for the guy that he can't even get his own sword hard. But I love how this show wears the comedy aspect first and foremost. That's the main star attraction. But what episode 2 did was it really got you accustomed more with the world building, but most importantly, where the characters' individual stories are probably going to go. I think out of the 4, probably Yunya had the least characterization in this episode, but given that she kind of was like front and center in episode 1, that's not an issue at all. I like the fact that whether it's Henri and the fact that she's a necromancer, and we learn that her heart is literally one of these crystals, so it very much makes it look like, okay, so if we kill devils and take their crystals, and if we read the incantation, then we get their abilities. Very much that says she's not human, she's not a person, she's probably something very similar to whatever these devils are. But I like the fact that at surface level, you would swear she was human, she just uses taboo magic. So it feels like over the course of the show, we're very much going to start learning more about who she is and why she tries so hard. We understand her connection to the legendary hero, literally the only person to treat her nice, and obviously is why she's so invested in that body. But I like the fact that you get a sense of her more as a person this episode. Whether it's Touka, who we can't deny, he is a perverted, just idiot. Like, there's no other way to put it. The fact that he goes in to break into their room while they're sleeping to steal the coffin that has his body in it. He gets distracted because he has to put stockings on Yunya, and then he's like, well, that's a good day's work done. And then he's dusts his hands off and he leaves, and it's only like momentarily after that he realizes like, oh wait, I came here to do something else. The fact that he got punished for Kyle basically's attempted murder and trying to steal the coffin is pretty hilarious, because had he just not been a perverted bastard, most likely they might have asked him, but ultimately it wouldn't have been we're gonna beat your ass silly because you literally are a creep who are coming into our room at night and doing things to us. Like, he's just such a lunatic, but he's an entertaining MC, of course. But I love the fact that he just doesn't want to die. He refuses to give up on his life, and he feels like for himself, he has a reason that's worth living. And a lot of times when you have these kind of like perverted, shutting characters in a weird way, you don't feel like they have a backbone. And this man fully is confident in the BS that he's trying to sell, and that makes what he says, you know what, you're like, okay, let's see where he's going to take it. he feels like he has confidence, which a lot of these characters usually don't. They're just kind of surrounded by a bunch of beauties, and then ultimately you're like, what does anyone see in them? I mean, not to say like everyone is flustered by him. The only one who currently is obviously this little necromancer girl who's trying to grow up someday and wear tights the way he likes. But the fact remains, like, he's in a smelly body that is just, ain't no one going near that with a 10-foot pole unless they have to. But I like the fact that he actually has confidence. But really, man, it's just like, I like the fact that even like Kyle as an example, the fact that he always felt like he was in the legendary hero's shadow, and the fact that he wanted to be the one to pull the sword out. Now he wants the body for obvious reasons. And it's kind of funny because when you look at the 4 characters that we're following currently, the one that seems the most capable of being the legendary hero is in fact the dude who's like super villainous by the end of the episode. And the fact that we're like having kill poses, like when he gets stripped by the goo and like he's holding himself. I mean, there's this moment where the only thing covering him up is one of his like swords of revealing light objects. And we see like Yunya just completely flustered. I'm pretty sure our boy Touka was envious of the package. I feel like he just was like, why can't I have that? And then Henri was just didn't care whatsoever. But it was fun. It was goofy, but they had a lot of fun. I just think The Legendary Hero is Dead is just such a hilarious show because it knows how to use perverted comedy, probably some of the best I've seen. The whole concept of not being able to keep your sword hard, but as a literal weapon, and the fact that he actually just took a sword, wrapped it around a devil, let go of the sword, dangled it with a rope to make it hard again, because if he touches a sword, it's not going to be hard. And the fact that every step of the way, this man truly is like, if it's cultured, I love it. The fact that he can relate to his enemy on a personal level because he thinks said enemy wants to see naked women in stockings. The dude is a lunatic, and The Legendary Hero is Dead is just full of culture and comedy gold, and I'm loving my time with it. Like I said, episode 1 is probably going to be exactly what to expect going forward. What you see is what you're going to get, and if you enjoyed episode 1, we're probably going to enjoy the rest of the show, and that's exactly how I feel leaving episode 2. I'm excited, I'm glad that there's clearly some character motives that, you know, often the character motives are silly, but they're still character motives nonetheless. And the fact that you have a story that on paper, you know, you swear you've seen it before, but every step of the way, they're just taking the whole perverted comedy, legendary hero tropes in such new, funny directions that I'm just internally laughing the entire from start to finish. And the opening, as I said in my first impressions, it is so weird, but seriously, one of this anime season's best openings, hands down. And we get a tease for episode 3. Some dude's going after a princess and seemingly is invested in bones, and if that ain't a little creepy, but we'll see where it goes. Thoughts and feelings yourself down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Ring that bell, of course, so you can get notified when I upload. And like I mentioned, full live reaction is available on my Patreon. And while you're there, you can also get a video shout-out. So today, we have Alton Johnson, Azop, and Anonymous. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.